So now let's get through more basic information. Just in case you don't understand how the whole thing works, a website, a URL, a domain name, how does it work? Again, if you feel this is too basic for you, go ahead and skip it. But let me cover the basics of a website and how it works, how a domain name works. So when you want to build a website, your website is basically, you can think of it like a Word document or a file on your computer. Okay, so you have a computer here. Now this computer is called a server. Okay, and the page that you create, this is your page. You have some nice pictures here. The page that you create is stored in this server. Now if this page was on your computer, then you can just open it up anytime you want. But this server can be miles away, can be thousands of miles away. I'm in Malaysia, my server is in the US. So how do I access this page? And most importantly, how do I let other people access this page? So this page will be my web page or my home page. So imagine if there's a page in your computer and you can view it, but how do you allow other people to access the same page and view it 24 hours a day? Especially when you're going to shut down your laptop or you're going to shut down your computer as soon as work is over, and when you do that, nobody else can access the page because your computer is shut down. So that's why web hosting servers run 24/7 in dedicated server spaces with their own air conditioning, fireproofing, and security system, etc. It runs 24 hours a day, but it's basically just like your desktop computer, but much more powerful with a huge disk space. So now you have your web page on your server. Okay, and a server has an IP address. And the IP address can look something like 125.25.0.193. And this IP address is basically the location of the server, not a geographic location, okay, but in the network, in the computer network, okay, this is the IP address. IP addresses are unique, so no two server, no two computer will have the exact same IP address, okay. Now, if you were to give someone this IP address and they type this IP address in their browser, they will be able to route to this server, and from this server, the last part of the IP address here will specify which page or which folder or whatever it is. So when you give an IP address like this to someone and they type it in their browser, they will be able to view your web page as long as the server is online. But no one can remember weird numbers like this. So that's where you have a domain name. Okay, so you have your domain name. And this domain name can be something easy to remember. Okay, let's say our website, cradle.com. It's definitely much easier to remember than 125.25.0.193. So you can just give someone your domain name and say, hey, my domain name is cradle.com. When they type cradle.com in their browser, what happens is that a mapping process happens, okay, from the domain name registrar. So that can be, like, say, enorm or Namecheap. Okay, so the place where you registered your domain name, they will store this mapping information. So when someone types in cradle.com, they will actually be going to the mapping server or the mapping information here called a DNS server. Okay, so this is called a DNS server, and it basically translates the words into the numbers and redirects your visitor to the server, and then they can view the web page. So what does all this mean? If you want to build a website, you cannot build a website on your desktop. It's called a local host website. Okay, you can build a website on your desktop. You can view your website anytime you want. And as long as your website is never shut down at all, you don't shut down your website. If it is your own server in your own office, it will have its own IP address. All computers have the IP address. And by giving someone access to this IP address, with some modifications to your Wi-Fi network to allow access from outside, having a web page in your website is possible, and anyone can actually access your web page, as long as I said, as long as your computer is never ever shut down. But of course that doesn't make sense. So that's why you need to get web hosting. You need to get you need to pay a company for access to their server in their own special server room with all the facilities and all the server stuff. And that server will never ever shut down, okay, unless of course there's something wrong with the server, but it is meant to stay online forever and ever in a cold server room. Now when you have a 24-hour availability of your server access, and then you can do your website, you can get your domain name, and that's how it all works. Okay, so let's recap. You have a domain name. A domain name is just some words here, and that domain name actually translate into numbers. The number is the location of the server, and the numbers, the IP address, is unique to every single computer in the world, and your web page is just a document in that computer. Now when it's all linked up like this, it works beautifully, it looks like magic, and this is basically the basics of any type of website technology. It's a simplified version of course, but this is how it works.